What's up guys, my name's Brandon and welcome back to Apple Weekly. This week was exciting because we got new beta software updates across the board for iOS, macOS, watchOS, and all others. So we're going to discuss more new changes found in iOS 15.5 Beta 1. We're going to talk about how iOS 15.4.1 is running and the big changes included with that update, why we might see another public release soon, and more. And then after we discuss the software side of things, we're going to talk about the AirPods Pro 2 and some new details about those, an OLED iPad Pro that's in the works, the way that scammers stole $1.5 million from Apple and then got arrested, and more. All right, so let's talk about those additional features and changes found in iOS 15.5 Beta 1. So if you guys missed my What's New video, that's linked up in the cards and down in the description below, but there's not a ton of new features in this update. However, we did discover a few new changes after recording that What's New video. And the first one is actually inside of Messages. So here in Messages, if we open up the app tray right here, you can see that now it says Apple Cash there instead of Apple Pay. So before it just had the Apple logo and said Pay, but now it's Apple Cash. We also have a small change inside of the Home application. So if you go to one of your HomePods in the Home app and then scroll all the way down to the very bottom, you will see next to Wi-Fi network, it shows your network's name along with signal bars. So before it would just show the Wi-Fi name, but now we have signal bars to show how strong or how weak our Wi-Fi connection is. There's also a new prompt for applications that use a third-party payment platform for in-app purchases. So this was found in the code by 95Mac, and they said this: Apple was recently required to let developers redirect users to third-party payment platforms instead of using the App Store's in-app purchases system. And now it's been discovered that iOS 15.5 Beta 1 adds support for apps with external purchases following the announcement of a new entitlement option for reader apps. So just a heads up, that is a new prompt that you'll probably see in the future for applications that use a third-party payment platform. And then there were also multiple other references to new features and changes in the code of iOS 15.5, but nothing we can actually see yet here in Beta 1. However, one thing that we can see is Apple TV Plus's Friday Night Baseball. So that just started on Friday night, and you can see here it's live right now. I can watch the MLB game right here. So you're gonna be able to watch 2 MLB games every single Friday night, completely ad-free and really good quality. You also get access to all the stats and everything. It is awesome. And if you go to the Watch Now tab in the TV application, you have a whole section here for Major League Baseball. If you tap on that, you can see all the content and all the coverage you'll get for MLB. And you can see this every day of the week as well. I think there's a stream that runs 24/7 just talking about baseball. So this is really cool. Definitely something I think is worth the price of Apple TV Plus alone. So really cool. Check it out if you haven't already, if you are into baseball. And then Apple also updated the Pages, Keynote, and Numbers application. So if you use those, you will now see version 12.0 in the App Store on both iOS and macOS. There was also an update to Google Maps, which included multiple new features, including more detail on the roads that's going to show building outlines and stop signs. There's also estimated toll pricing before you even begin your navigation. So you can see the estimated amount you're going to spend in tolls, and also standalone Apple Watch support. So if you're a big Google Maps user, you will be happy to see that Google Maps has been updated with these nice new features. But that's pretty much everything we can actually see with 15.5 Beta 1. There's a lot of things, like I mentioned in the code, that we can't actually see yet, like the Apple Classical Music application and just other references to other applications and other features that are coming, hopefully in Beta 2. So hopefully we do see more features and changes in Beta 2 and 3, maybe even a new wallpaper, because we've been longing for a new wallpaper here on iOS 15. But as far as bugs go, I really haven't had any bugs on iOS 15.5 Beta 1. It feels like a pretty much direct port of iOS 15.4.1. It feels identical to that software version, just with these added features, but I haven't really noticed anything that's wrong, like no UI bugs, no issues with reboots or resprings or apps crashing, nothing like that. Everything seems solid here on 15.5 Beta 1. I do have issues with my AirPods, but I believe that's just an issue with the AirPods, not 15.5 itself. But if you're having issues with connectivity with AirPods, let me know in a comment down below so I can kind of rule that out. But as far as performance overall goes, like I said, it feels the same as 15.4.1 to me, which is a good thing. I didn't notice any type of lag or stutter when I'm going in and out of applications, and again, no UI bugs or anything like that. So performance, nothing to complain about. Now, as far as the battery life goes, battery life is fine here on 15.5 Beta 1. I don't think it feels as good as 15.4.1, so So I'm not too sure about that. It's not as bad as 15.4, but I don't think it's as good as the stable build of 15.4.1. So just keep that in mind. And then speaking of iOS 15.4.1, I have my main device right here, my iPhone 13 Pro, which I did just make a video on, by the way. If you want to see my 6 months later review on the 13 Pro, I just released that video last night. Go check it out. It's up in the cards and down in the description below. But anyways, iOS 15.4.1, of course, fixes the big battery drain bug that was on 15.4. It did also fix the storage bug for a lot of people. So if you had the storage bug down here, if we go to our settings, general iPhone storage, if it wouldn't populate properly, or if it just shows that you used up too much system data, that should be fixed. I think that was just a UI bug, but it's fixed with 15.4.1. Also, connectivity seems to be better as well for a lot of people in terms of 5G and LTE. And as far as battery life goes, you can see here battery life is great. I'm using my phone a ton and it's sustaining a lot longer than it did on 15.4, which again, I mentioned this before, but I think iOS 15.4 had the biggest hit to battery life on the iPhone 13 series. After testing all my phones, it seemed that the 13 series had the most issues with battery drain, but luckily that was addressed with 15.4.1, and I'd say partially addressed with 15.5 beta 1. But of course, after beta 2, we'll likely see that same bug fix in that update. All right, so now let's talk about what is next for Apple. So next up is going to be iOS 15.5 beta 2, and next week is a possibility for that, but I think Apple could skip a week and we get beta 2 on the 19th, maybe around the 19th or the 20th. I think that's honestly more likely given the fact that we're not expected to see iOS 15.5, the final release, until around WWDC, which is all the way down here on June 6th. So I could see Apple skipping a week and maybe getting beta 2 on or around the 19th. I would also expect to see an iOS 15.4.2 sometime in April, most likely near the end of April, maybe early May, but I think Apple will still have some bugs to fix and also some security vulnerabilities to patch up. So I would expect to see a 15.4.2 before the final release of iOS 15.5. And then of course on June 6th is when we'll see iOS 16 beta 1, and I will be live streaming the Worldwide Developers Conference here on the channel, so that's going to be a ton of fun. Make sure to mark your calendars for my stream, not just for WWDC. All right, so anyways, let's move on to some of the latest Apple news from this past week. So first up, let's talk about one of my most anticipated Apple products for the past couple of years, and that is the AirPods Pro 2. So Ming-Chi Kuo just reaffirmed that we should be seeing new AirPods Pro in the second half of 2022. So he said this on Twitter: AirPods 3 orders in Q2 and Q3 have been cut by 30+% due to failed product segmentation strategy. Demand for AirPods 3 is significantly weaker than for AirPods 2. AirPods Pro may get discontinued after Apple launches AirPods Pro 2 in the second half of 2022 to avoid repeating the same mistake. So yeah, that is a very interesting report, and the adoption rate for AirPods 3 did seem a little low compared to previous AirPods, so I'm not surprised that they're cutting production in preparation for the AirPods Pro 2, which I think are going to sell like crazy. And we've heard several leaks on the second generation AirPods Pros for the past 2 years from several sources, but the most notable ones are Ming-Chi Kuo and Bloomberg. So to sum those rumors up, we're expecting motion sensors for fitness tracking capabilities, a charging case that's going to emit sounds to help you find the misplaced case, not just the AirPods, a new chip that is, quote, significantly upgraded over the current H1 chip, and of course, a potential redesign. So Apple has been testing a more compact design that would eliminate the stems from the AirPods. So basically they'll look similar to Apple's Beats Studio Buds if they do decide to stick to the redesign plans, which I personally hope they do not. I think the AirPods Pro first gen are perfect. I think the size is perfect. I think if they're cut any shorter, it would just look weird and not be as comfortable, but who knows? I honestly don't think it even matters if there's a redesign or not. I think that the AirPods Pro 2 are just gonna sell like absolute hotcakes, and I can't wait to see when they get released. The original AirPods Pros were announced in October of 2019, so we might be waiting until after the new iPhones get announced to see the AirPods Pro 2. Maybe they'll come in October of 2022. We'll see. And speaking of the new iPhones, let's discuss more info on the upcoming iPhone 14 Pro Max. And the reason being is because we're now hearing that it's going to have thinner bezels around the display. 20% thinner to be exact. So just like the schematics that we showed and talked about in the past few episodes, these new ones from Shrimp Apple Pro show the same story. So it shows a pill and hole punch design to replace the notch, a larger rear camera bump, and bezels that measure 1.95 millimeters thick compared to the 13 Pro Max's 2.42 millimeter bezels. So it's going to be interesting to see if we can tell a big difference in the size of the bezels this year, but as always, it'll be most noticeable on the bigger device, the biggest device, so that's why the 14 Pro Max was used as the example in these schematics. Now, just like the iPhones, Apple is planning to bring OLED to the iPad and the MacBook in the coming years, 2024 to be exact. And this news comes courtesy of The Elec, who reports that China's BOE Technology is preparing to supply Apple with OLED displays for the 2024 iPad Pro and the 2025 MacBook. So it'll be interesting to see how these OLED panels compare to Apple's mini LED displays. So I don't know, do you guys want OLED or are you more than satisfied with mini LED? I know some people have issues with OLED displays and just other situations with PWM and things like that. So let me know if you guys want OLED on the iPad Pro and MacBook, or if you just want Apple to stick with mini LED. So you guys know how we talk about leaks and rumors all the time here on Apple Weekly, right? Well, this is the first time our source is Apple themselves, and that's because they just published a support document for an unreleased product. Yeah, seriously. That product is a 35-watt dual USB-C charging block. So nothing super exciting, especially given it's only 35 watts, but it's still pretty interesting that Apple leaked this themselves. And I'd find it very useful. Personally, I think that this would be a cool product to have, but we don't know if or when it is getting released. And then finally, another story about hacks and scams because, well, I like to end these episodes with some crazy news. And this time, it was good news because those scammers who stole $1.5 million from Apple just got sentenced to 13 years in prison. Here's how they scammed Apple using their own technology. So the scam was done on an employee-only point-of-sale device called an ISIC. So retail employees, if you've ever been in an Apple store, you'll see that retail employees carry these ISICs around the store, which allows them to check inventory and sell products to customers. So one of these scammers would walk into the Apple store and steal an ISIC device. And after stealing it, the scammer would sit outside the Apple store while still connected to the Wi-Fi and while still logged in to the employee's account to acquire thousands of dollars worth of digital gift cards. The gift card redemption codes were then loaded into the wallet application to generate QR codes, and then he would screenshot those QR codes and send them to his accomplice via iMessage. The accomplice was then able to walk into an Apple store and buy high-value Apple products undetected. And one of those scammers, the accomplice, stole $50,000 worth of digital Apple gift cards in Texas alone, while on the same day, his partner used the gift cards to buy thousands of dollars worth of Apple products in New York. They were eventually caught stealing an ISIC device on CCTV and were tracked down and arrested by the FBI, and they've now been sentenced to a combined 13 years in federal prison in order to pay $1.26 million in restitution to Apple. Pretty wild. So there you have it. That is the latest batch of Apple news from this past week, along with some additional info on iOS 15.4.1 and iOS 15.5 Beta 1. So if you guys enjoyed this video, as always, I would appreciate if you give it a thumbs up. Also, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss next weekend's episode. And if you have any suggestions to help make these Apple Weekly videos better, let me know down in the comments below. I'm always looking to improve and bring you guys everything you want and more. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.